So I'd like to recognize some folks here today who are key reasons for the boom in production in Georgia over the last 8 years. First, my boss and the owner of EUE Screen Gems, Chris Cooney. Chris, thanks for being here. 6 years ago, before every shopping center developer was announcing the world's largest studio, Chris and the Cooney family, who've been running stages for almost 50 years, took over the more than dilapidated 100-year-old Liquid Fairground just south of here, signing a 50-year lease with the city of Atlanta and turning it into what's now a beautiful 10-stage production complex that I have the pleasure of overseeing. I'd like to also recognize State Representative Terry Rogers here today as well. Terry's a stalwart supporter of our business and has been a good friend and an all-around great guy. Thank you for being here, Terry. Also, the folks in the Georgia Studio and Infrastructure Alliance, which a bunch of us formed last year, a group of the major physical studios, Eagle Rock Studios, Fran and Jeff here. We also have Tyler Perry Studios, they weren't able to be here today, Atlanta Filmworks, EUE Screen Gems, and PC&E as well. And soon to include. The Alliance works to advocate the long-term value of our business and the production business for policymakers and influencers in the state, so that they hear one voice from our industry and to support a really crucial initiative, which is crew training, which you're going to hear Jeffrey Stephenkoff talk about in just a minute. I'd also like to recognize my friends and colleagues at Pinewood and Marvel over here. Marvel also reportedly a client of EUE Screen Gems, but can't confirm that. You know, yesterday I heard Jennifer Brett of the AJC on the radio discussing the latest sightings of celebrities in Atlanta. And, I'm sorry, John Relay with Mailing Out of the State. Sorry, John. He was our broker at the local realtor. You don't need to know. Thanks for being here, Jen. So I heard Jennifer Brett on the radio talking about the celebrity sightings. Scarlett Johansson was down the street at STK restaurant, you know, all that breathless kind of stuff. And I thought, you know, for every one of those sightings, there's thousands of people who are never sighted. Carpenters, electricians, set decorators, accountants, PAs, caterers, security guards, drivers. They're behind the gates on a lot of our studios, and you're never really going to see them unless they're out blocking Piedmont Avenue twice a week or so. According to the MPAA, over 85,000 of these behind-the-scenes men and women with wages of $4.2 billion are working here in Georgia. That's a lot more than even Chris Pratt will make this year. And I expect it's even more than Donald Trump's tax return, whether that's plus or minus. Think about that, a new Falcon Stadium Plus overflowing with workers you never see. And when they go to Home Depot and Best Buy and Chick-fil-A and everywhere else in the metro area and in Georgia, nobody asks for their autograph and nobody snaps their photos. They're not on social media. So now, more than 8 years after the production tax credit passed, this is a huge, strategically important business for the state of Georgia. But the final product isn't the sets and the costumes and seeing actors in restaurants. This factory creates intellectual property and entertainment that is consumed worldwide. As Mayor Reed often points out when talking about the film business effect on Atlanta, America leads the world in the creation of intellectual property, and it's not a business we need to lose that lead in. Georgia now has a big piece of this IP factory, and we need to keep it here. To me, this story comes down to jobs, 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 and Georgia jobs. Does some crew still have to be brought in from California? Sure. When you see the kind of intricate stuff that's being built by Marvel and the others, this is tough stuff, and we don't have enough people qualified to do that right now. But that's changing every day thanks to the Georgia Film Academy. As Commissioner Lee Thomas will tell you in a minute, most likely, after every show, a percentage of the non-Georgia crew moves here because they're here, and they find home as the place that they're working all the time anyways, and that's a good thing for all of us. But I want to mention, and let's be clear, let's not turn a blind eye to two specific threats in the business, both inside and outside of Georgia. This great Georgia jobs script can be rewritten from the outside or from the inside in a flash. Any religious freedom bill or other bill that enshrines discrimination into Georgia law will put an end to a lot of these Georgia jobs. Unfortunately, EUE Screen Gems can share with you our experience in North Carolina, thanks to the HB2 bill you may have read about. It has flattened the state's 30-year growth in the production business And in addition, it's hurt every other business segment in the state as well. So I'd say to those who said Disney and others were bluffing last spring when they said they wouldn't do business in Georgia if river passed, just look east and you can see what would happen. Visual effects these days can make Nebraska look like Fiji. Second, there are some very well-funded groups with this state's success in their sights. They don't like media or Hollywood much, and we're on their radar. They like their tax credits, but ours not so much. So we in the industry work hard every week to tell our story about the value of good production jobs in Georgia's IT factories. All of us have plenty of neighbors, church friends, other friends who are now touched by this business statewide. We need to keep telling our story to all Georgians throughout the state. And through the Georgia Studio Alliance, we'll see a concerted effort starting on that front shortly. It's the rare, incredibly positive story in a world that could use a few more right now. And the good folks you're about to hear from today on the panel are the ones directing that Georgia Good News reel every day. Thanks to them, and thanks for coming today.
Founded Atlanta offered a very deep and experienced crew base, and we had to bring very, very few people to the Atlanta area to build our crew.
Production companies and studios like EUE Screen Gems, Pinewood, and Marvel have set up shop and filmed some of the city's most iconic films, hosting popular flicks like Hunger Games,
There'll be photographers.
Anchorman 2,
Got room in this battle for an old war horse?
and Captain America: Civil War.
Shout out today to CNN's Faith Robinson, Johnny Hutchins, and Andre Murphy for producing editing. You guys stand up, please. So I think we have a lot of people here today who are either directly or indirectly involved in the movie industry. And if you are either a professional service person or in the movie industry, would you also stand so we can see, talking about those jobs that Chris referred to. And as Laurie said, all of our panelists have very cool, impressive backgrounds. You can read their full bios in the program. I'm going to introduce them very briefly. And I thought it'd be fun to give sort of some idea of their personalities. As I introduce you, would you name a movie that was either influential in your life or influenced your decision to go into the business? So we have direct from LA, Mitch Bell. He lives in LA and made a special trip to be with us today. He's co-producer and vice president of physical production for Marvel Studios, which is owned by Disney, where he's currently shooting Spider-Man: Homecoming. So what's your movie?
I would say probably Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory.
Oh,
I think the magic in that, when I was a kid, it really blew me away, and just the specialness of that is totally with me today.
that's a great one. Okay, Owen Egan also made a special trip here today. He lives in New York, where he is senior VP of Pinewood International, which runs the huge Pinewood Atlanta studios in Fayette County, where such movies as Disney's Ant-Man was filmed. What's your movie?
I'd have to say a bit more intense. Braveheart, Mel Gibson. Yeah, it was shot in Ireland. I'm from Ireland originally, and I was an 11-year-old extra just when they were about to chop off his head at the end there. That was it. I was all in after that.
All right, Christopher Hicks is director of the Mayor's Office of Film and Entertainment. He's lived in Atlanta since 1996, and in a previous position, he helped engineer the careers of Justin Bieber and Jennifer Lopez. What is your movie?
I'm gonna go Once Upon a Time in America. That was probably a pretty tip-post movie for me.
great one. Jeffrey Stepikoff, who was raised in Atlanta, is executive director of the Georgia Film Academy, which is certifying workforce-ready employees for the movie industry. GFA students have been or are interning on 18 different film and television productions in the state, including The Walking Dead, Spider-Man, and MacGyver, and he is also quite the author. So 1 million copies in print in 20 languages. That's pretty impressive. So what is your movie?
Well, I'll confess, Casablanca inspires me. I'm a romantic.
Okay, so obviously this is the press club. We have a lot of journalists in the audience, and just chatting at lunch with Owen, he said, "Yeah, I'm going to kind of make an announcement maybe today," and I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm going to just kick it right over to him and let him make his announcement. This will give you some of the size and scope of the industry here in Georgia.
Is it on the
Well, I
record?
hope we live up to that. But no, we're very proud to announce this month that we are opening our next phase 3 of our development, which we now have 18 state-of-the-art purpose-built sound stages on our campus, which makes us the biggest production facility outside of California in North America, here in Atlanta.
So I'm going to just to kick this off, Christopher, I'm going to turn to you and have you talk about how you measure the economic impact of the film industry in the city and state. What kind of data do you collect? How do you measure success?
You know, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I rely on Lee Thomas. There's really no sense of beating around the bush. I think that their office is very key in driving what that component looks like. I think that we have some measurables in our city that are just a slice of what that pie looks like and a derivative of that office. But obviously, we pay close attention to her numbers and close attention to the state's overall numbers. And as it's reflected in the press, with all the press here today, we can see the economic impact in the billions of what it's obviously impacted the state. And it's, you know, I feel it's such a safe to say that it's obviously impacted the city to a great extent as well.
Cool, okay. We're going to get to tax credits in a minute, and that'll be obviously a big chunk of what we talk about, but I want to set that aside for now. So when each of you talk about what the state's strengths and weaknesses are, especially compared with other states in terms of becoming a movie capital, and I'm including New York and California in this. What are our strengths and weaknesses?
Well, look, you know, Marvel for the longest time, we were looking for places to film because we're space hogs. We need stages, right? And that was one of the drawbacks. Originally, several years ago, was that we just couldn't come here because there was no shoot. Fortunately, when we came out here, Pinewood was starting to build their stages, and we were able to get them at the ground floor, and have stayed ever since. So facilities now, I think, you know, they're popping up right and left, which is fantastic. It gives more and more studios a place to come film, which, look, I got to tell you, that's a huge driver. The crew the base is growing. I mean, I think every movie that we come here, the first movie we brought, you know, X amount. It's gotten less on every movie, which is fantastic. I would love to come here. The more you bring, the more money you spend. So it's obvious I would like to bring as few as possible. That still is kind of a weakness because there are certain disciplines that really aren't here yet, but they're getting better. I mean, like our special effects, that's a hard department to crack. But you know, our effects guy Dan Suits has done every movie here, and every movie he brings in 6 kids from the area and trains them. And this is just something he's done by himself without any kind of push or anything else. And they're continuing to work for him, and he brings more, and he's training special effects kids, which is fantastic. Some construction specialties like plasterers and molders are not here yet, but I know that the school, we talked to them about offering that, because again, they're worth their weight in gold. We have to bring all of them in because there's no one here of that sort of thing. So crew is getting better, but it's still kind of a weakness. The summer weather is a weakness here unfortunately. But again, everything I think is going in the right direction there. I mean, again, we've done 3 movies here now, and I have for more, either, prepping along the way here, so I think they've done a really good job.
Okay, Owen, add to that?
Yeah, well, like, as we are the infrastructure part of the business, we're the stages, but we're just really empty boxes without crew. And you know, since Ant-Man, I guess, was the first film, there was a lot of crew brought in out of stage just to get things going. Mitch, you know, mentioned that there was certain departments that they were kind of crew light here, but you know, not even 3 years later, we are, you know, we're probably 80% that way you can crew a film here completely, which is amazing. And I think people are moving here, but it's also through Jeff and the GFA that we're training the next generation of crews, and they're all local, so it's all about jobs. I think we every day we're trying to improve our business, whether it's bringing vendors from all over the world, not just Los Angeles and New York, but we're bringing certain speciality vendors from Europe, from our campus in London. So, you know, we're growing every day, but without, the crew is really the strength of our business here.
Okay. Christopher and Jeffrey, do you have anything to add?
I would say that the infrastructure that has been built here is unprecedented and phenomenal at the scale that it's been built and in the time frame that it's been built. I think that whenever you're soliciting business, attacking someone's greed is very central and very key to it. So I think that has been very, you know, that's helped us be very efficient in building volume business here. I think that where we suffer though is that we don't green light here. We are still, you know, the projects that come here are, the decision is still being made out of Los Angeles, is still being made out of New York. I think that the ability to be able to walk through a door, a young talent, an emerging talent, an existing talent, be able to walk through the door and find execution soup to nuts, specifically with all the delivery platforms that we have now, from Hulu to Netflix to full screen. We actually have the ability to create, package, we have all the resources to create, package here, and sell. So I'd like to see us strengthen in that area as well. I feel like we should be
Well, I will emphasize what Chris is saying. One of our negatives is, yes, we're not training and keeping our above the line talent here. We need to be thinking about that, talking about that. In terms of strengths, and again, I'll emphasize this, infrastructure development, crew, tax credit. Those are the big three, right? But if you look at the composite of all this, what it really adds up to is we're awesome. And what I mean is, we're awesome in Georgia. We're not messing around here when it comes to film and television. We're serious about this. The Georgia Film Academy is a testament to how serious we are about this industry. You know, Governor Deal looked around 20 months ago and realized there was a need and had the vision for the Georgia Film Academy. There's commitment to the industry here, as evidenced by these three things that we're talking about. So I think that's what's really special about us.
Okay, so let's turn for a minute. I want to get back to some other things on the labor force and so forth, but I do want to get into the tax credits. So it's clear that Georgia's tax incentives have played a major role in recruiting the industry. Is there a likelihood that the industry would simply move to another state if another state offers better incentives down the line, or if the tax credits go away?
Well, look, it also depends on, again, I keep harkening back, and I know it's hard not to, but crew is, for us and for many people, the problem with other states do have the incentive, but they don't have a crew base, they don't have the facilities, they don't have a lot of things that Georgia does have. So again, for other states to come and steal everything, it would be hard unless they really invest a lot of money into their facilities and they're bringing crews there first. That's the hard part. And Georgia has gotten an upper hand on that right now because they've invested this time and money and effort into it. If it went away, look, honestly, we would have to look someplace else. The margins are so small these days because of the video market and everything else has gone away. That any inch that you can get, any bit of help that you can get it goes without saying is necessary. If it went away everywhere else, if there was no incentives anywhere, I think Georgia stands a good chance of staying afloat, simply because of what they've invested here and what they've drawn here. I think they've positioned themselves very well.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a little different from Marvel in the fact that we're here, our infrastructure is here, so we can't just go away overnight if the tax credits go away. But the investment that our partner Dan Cathy and Rivers Rock have made in Fayetteville, and I don't know if you've been to the facility, but I would welcome you with people here to come down and take a look. It's not just on our main campus, but there's also a Pinewood Forest development, which is housing, commercial. We're really trying to create a community. We're trying to create, bring in technical learning, research and development into VR, other parts of the business that are becoming more important. So we're trying to create a kind of a full campus Palo Alto type learning center on our lot and make these movies. If the tax credit go away, absolutely, it's a disaster from point of view of our production. But we're trying to make something bigger, and we're investing every day. Our partners, we had a meeting last week about next year and the year after, and it's really exciting what's happening here. So don't touch the tax credits. We have a lot of work to do.
Okay, and the tax credits aside from the Religious Freedom Bill, if that passes, you know, from everything Disney has said, and I've heard Disney's out, and you were saying over lunch, Disney is the biggest, basically the biggest customer in Georgia right now. So would that kill the industry?
I don't know if Disney leaves, it would kill the industry. I don't know. I mean, again, it's very busy here. There are a bunch of other productions other than Disney here, we can tell you that. But I know that, yeah, we would definitely pull out.
And Christopher, I'm going to throw that to you. Put you on the hot seat here. What would happen?
I don't want to sound too presumptuous, but a dollar goes further here than it goes in a lot of places, specifically Los Angeles and New York. And so that gives me some confidence about the infrastructure that has been built here. Saying that to say that I think if some of our main shareholders were to leave the city, the Disneys of the world, I think that it could have a crushing impact on what we do here. I think that more so, I think the Religious Freedom Bill probably more so than the actual tax credit. I'm going way out on a limb saying that, but I think that because it just really draws a very serious line in the sand. Whereas if we did have difficulty with the tax credit down the line, again, a dollar still goes further here. A lot of infrastructure was built here. We have tremendous case study where we can build upon, you know, some of the other forms of IP that have been created here in Georgia. So I would lend to say that would be crushing.
Okay, and Jeffrey, you're right on the line of actually creating jobs. So you are kind of the workforce person, a representative here. So what kind of outreach do you do to the state, to politicians, to people in maybe the religious community to talk about the impact of the loss of this industry, what it might have on jobs? And maybe you're too new in your job to be doing that right now, so maybe you can just kind of wing it here.
I'm gonna answer that by addressing the first point, which is what would happen if the tax credit went away? All I have to do is look at North Carolina. I think we have the answer to that. We can look at other states where the credit is even questioned. We're eating their lunch right now, so we need the credit. That said, and to really expand what Chris is saying, we have a window right now. We have the chance of a lifetime, to build a permanent, sustainable entertainment industry here, which means training and incentivizing our content creators, our filmmakers. And when you have that, you have a whole ecosystem of the business, from creation to production to post, financing, distribution, you got it all. So that is part of the message that I carry to legislators and decision makers. Regarding jobs, and I will look at my friend Lee as I cite these numbers to see if I get them wrong. 2007, $242 million in economic activity here in Georgia due to film and television production. Last year, $7 billion in economic activity due to film and television production here in our state. $2 billion directly into the economy. Over 100,000 Georgians are working here now due to the film and television industry. So what would happen if we started talking about the tax credit? well, those jobs and that economic activity would be in jeopardy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Mitch, how many people do you typically bring in for production? And where are the gaps in Georgia? I mean,
Well,
you addressed that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it varies on the production. The bigger ones, you know, I think that I won't say we employ between 3,000 and 4,000 people on the bigger movies, and I would say out of those, you know, 50% maybe less we bring in. But again, as I was saying earlier, on Ant-Man, it was probably a little more than that, and every movie's gone down some, which is great, which means more movie are being trained. Lately, though, it's because it's so busy here. It's kind of gone the other way because there's only so much crew depth that can handle, you know, these movies. So again, it's kind of in flux right in that middle range right now. Again, I think with the training, this is fantastic. I think more and more people are moving here. I know from our crews, I got to tell you, 20% bought houses here. I mean,
20%?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Wow.
It really is. It's obvious that there's a big draw and it's working here. So again, we're still in that range. As to what we have to bring in, I touched upon special effects. Mainly, it's the specialized departments. Grip electric are great here. Camera is starting to get better here. Construction, certain of the departments within construction are available here. Some are not. But there again, the training is going to start up, which is great. You know, it's some cast. I tell you, we do cast quite a few roles out of here. Of the day players, obviously the main cast we don't. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, you know, craft service we can find here. I mean, the majority we really can find here. It's just a specialized craft that we have to bring in.
Okay. Did you want to add to that?
I think what we should, you know, I think the governor did something smart is he hired Jeff. And I'm not saying that just because Jeff is sitting right here next to me, but because he was able to establish a curriculum that is obviously working in a very short order, but I think that he thinks outside of the box. And he said something, if I'm speaking out of turn, you can just hit me in the back of the head, but he said something very interesting to me a couple weeks ago when we met, is that what we also need is an intellectual property fund. That's what we really need. We really need a film fund. We really need a content fund. We really need a fund where we can create and deliver here. I don't know if everybody's coming and sitting you and submitting to you. I don't know how that's going to work, but more than anything, we need to be able to be creative on our end. I've said this before. I think that we have some phenomenal case study with what happened with Atlanta in the music space, and I think that it has given us some inroads to be able to build upon that and really have some serious control over our future. Because when you have the infrastructure that we have here, and you also have the intellectual property to go with it, then then you're in control of your own destiny at that point.
So I want to talk a little bit about financing. And you mentioned so Dan Cathy and his interests own 60% of Pinewood. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Private lands.
Okay. So are any of you aware of other major investors similar to Dan Cathy that want to get into the movie business? Jeffrey, Christopher?
I think that there are a tremendous amount of people that are interested in the film business. I think the issue is when you deal in intellectual property, there's not a model for it. There's not an exact model for it. I don't think that here in Atlanta that we have the risk tolerance that, say, a Silicon Valley has for tech, or that Los Angeles has for IP in the way of music, film, television, digital. I think that plenty of people, there's a lot of money here. I think plenty of people, private people and public, want to invest into that space. I think that we have to do a better job of educating and building a medium where they can feel comfortable. I mean, you know, in the tech space, you're going to take 10,000 risks and you want one win. The ratio is obviously far lower in Los Angeles. We have to get better about what that process is here.
Okay.
Obviously, Tyler Perry is here, and he's making his own content. And if you look,
Right.
they're expanding their campus. They're building new studios. They're adding other parts of the business. But yeah, his model is the model.
This is what we know. There's talent here in Georgia. There's real talent. We have a rich heritage here in our state. We're natural storytellers in Georgia. All kinds of stories to be told. We don't want people going to California because that's where they have to have their stories, as Chris said, greenlit, right? We want to do that here. We want to keep our talent above and below the line here in Georgia.
Is it possible that Georgia can become #1 in the movie business, or is that just pie in the sky? But if it is possible, what would it take?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the value of the business in Los Angeles is about $11 billion direct spend. New York's about $9 billion. I think here's over $2 billion. Looking at Lee again now, probably growing for this year. So that's the gap, yeah.
I still don't think that, I mean, and maybe I'm ambitious, but I still don't think it's not insurmountable. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but they decide what they're going to make in Los Angeles, which gives them a leg up as far as the economic impact. I think if we just plant the seed here, maybe one or two, I think the example that you gave of Tyler is a phenomenal case study, then I think the sky is the absolute limit.
So where are you all seeing the biggest growth? Is it animation, art, games, online?
Here in Georgia,
Yeah.
I think the fact that, like Mitch is here, the growth that Marvel are bringing to the state, the 10 poles in London and in Toronto, where we have facilities, we have commercials business. Then our base is independent cinema, and then we have like the middle budget range, and then our goal is to get 10 poles. And here we started off with 10 poles, and we're trying to work back, which is interesting, but it's true. You know, I think that the increase in 10 poles, and I know Hunger Games shot at Screen Gems, and I think that was it when the Hunger Games came here from North Carolina, and when Marvel decided to make big movies here, was a big turning point.
Anybody want to add anything to that?
I mean, I can only speak to what we do, but I know that the amount of money and business that we bring in is substantial. I don't know what animation or digital.
Okay, I can't really speak to that. All right. So I want to turn back 1 second to the tax credits because I forgot to ask a question. In some states like Louisiana, there have been some problems with the tax credits, fraud and people overinflating and so forth. What do you do from an industry and a government perspective to keep that from happening here? Christopher, looks like you want to.
I think we have a smart credit. I'm not, again, I don't, kudos to Lee and the folks in the governor's office. I think that the thought process behind it and the ingenuity behind it, the research behind it, kind of paying attention to where it did not work, where it was potentially at risk. I think that they have done a very, very good job of coming up with a very smart credit, and then the system of how you come here, how you bring your projects here, and the due diligence that they do in that office is obviously second to none by the scale of the business that is coming here. I mean, you guys' studios booked out until forever right now, so I think
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Open for business, January 1.
I think that that's a testament to how intelligent it works, and so it runs parallel with all of the infrastructure that's been built here. Will it have room for tweaks and improvement in the future as the world evolves? I mean, right now the credit looks out for the guy who has a lot of money, and so now I'm sure the next step will be looking out for the guy who doesn't have as much money but is wildly creative. But those are that's where we have room to grow. But as far as where it stands right now, I think it's phenomenally intelligent.
Okay, so I just have a few more questions, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience because I know you guys have how much time do we have? We have some. Okay, so we have some time. Okay, so want to do a lightning round question. So just very quickly, want you to answer off the top of your head without any elaboration. And this one of these is on tax credits, one is on the religious freedom. But on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being Very likely, one being you're pretty scared about it. How confident are you that the tax credits will stay in place here? We're gonna start down at the other end with Jeffrey, just on a scale of 1 to 10, your confidence level on the tax credits.
10 that it stays in place?
Yeah.
You didn't put a time frame on it, so I'm just gonna say 10.
Well, yeah, well, within the next year, with change in governor and change in, changing governor. 10?
9.5.
10. Okay, all right. Christopher?
I'll go 8.5.
I'll say 10 as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 10, I'm hoping.
And I'm just assuming you all have your ears to the ground on religious freedom because it's really important to your business. So again, 1 to 10, confident that it will not pass. 10 being very confident it will not pass. 1 being you're pretty scared about it. Start with you, Mitch.
I mean, I'm hoping for a 10. I mean, I think it's probably closer to a 7.5.
Yeah, I would hope 10, but you never know, and we're not experts in this, but yeah, I'd say 8.
I'm gonna run with my gut. I'm gonna go 11.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, 12.
All right, what would be on your wish list to make the state get it closer to that #1 slot? Your wish list. I'm going to start in the middle with Owen. We'll finish.
I'd like to see more Atlanta directors and writers making these bigger films in state. Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier. I'd like to see some sort of content fund be developed, state opted, city supported content fund be erected so that we can attack all the different mediums for delivery, whether that's film, television, digital, all of them.
I'll go with that fund as well, and that'll lead to us having story rooms here in Georgia for television shows.
A giant dome over the street of Atlanta, air conditioning inside and keep the rain.
Okay, that's okay. So what advice would you give to all of these people who are not currently involved in the movie industry but would like to be? What should they do? Or if they want to get their kids involved, what should they do?
I think that the only rules is that there are no rules at all. And so, however you read it was supposed to go, do the opposite. Whatever you feel like in your gut that gets your story told and gets it exposed and gets it out there and gets it visible, I would really strongly urge you to follow your spirit in doing that.
I think that the first step is just be here in Atlanta, in Georgia. I mean, that I think is a leg up for every kid that I meet that asks me how to break in, I say, move to Atlanta. Cause it's just so busy here, which is, again, that's fantastic. And, the school I think is a great way of getting at least your foot wet into it and it gets you entree into places that you really can't get into. And again, get out there and meet as many people as you possibly can in the industry. Because again, it's all of it's about who you know.
Did you all bring your cards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Training. Go ahead.
No, I was just to say it's a fun business and it's a great opportunity. You get to meet people from all over the world. You get to travel. You also get to learn. I think everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own individual pathway on how they took in the film business or television, and it's interesting. It's a good business.
What we do at the Georgia Film Academy is training and opportunity. We provide a rapid, comprehensive training program over the course of 16 weeks. We put people onto sets. We provide them with opportunity so that, like Ian says, they can find their way, whether it's in grip electric lighting or it's in the above-the-line trades. We just want to put people out there and expose them to it. So, Georgia Film Academy.
Okay.
That's play.
Yeah. All right. So before we open it up to the audience, I want to just ask each of you if you have a story that you can share that you think might be instructive, interesting, funny, or whatever about getting into the business, or and you can broaden it, because I think, you know, Christopher, I'd love to hear what it's like to engineer Justin Bieber. Or Jennifer Lopez, but if you could just share a story that might be sort of illustrative about the entertainment business.
Well, when I graduated from college, I was clueless what I wanted to do. I was playing golf every day in Colorado and just and you know, had no idea. My sister was a costume designer in Los Angeles, and she called one day and said, "Just move out here. Just move out here. I'll get you a job." So it goes back to what I said before about going to where the jobs are. That was the biggest step that I could have made, was to go to Los Angeles, where at that point where the jobs were. And you know, it was so busy there that I got in with one Harris company and just worked my way up from that point. But again, it's opportunities, where the opportunity is.
I kind of fell into it because my dad is a set decorator in Ireland, and for, you know, people work long hours in the film business, and it's tough for family. So, you know, if you want to see your parents, you kind of have to get a job on a film set during the summertime. So no, it was a very you know, I got to work on films at a very young age, unlike Braveheart, but Saving Private Ryan, which kind of changed. It's just seeing how that was all put together. It kind of blew my mind, and I did try and go off and get a proper job and work in finance, but I couldn't. I had to come back. It's a unique business with great people, you know, and that's the kind of draw to it.
I don't really have any illustrious music industry stories that I can tell. But I'll say this, you know, I came here approximately 20 years ago. I moved here from Washington, D.C. I was going to school, I was in the School of Communication, making C's, and figured that I better, you know, follow my passion. I knew I was always pretty passionate about music, far more music than entertainment. You know, my mom has this picture hanging in her house of, do you guys remember like the double stereo in a wooden box where it had to drop down, I'm telling my age, right? Had to drop down record player in it with 2 speakers on the side. You had to lift it, hoist the top up. So she has a picture of me peering over that in my diapers, and so I think that at an early age it was in me. I think that what Atlanta gave me the opportunity to do is follow my passion in music. I started out here as a promoter, so promoting every rapper that you can think of under the sun, and realized that young kids don't pay money to actually go to shows. They stand outside and ask you to let them in for free. So before we lost everything, we built a small studio about the size of this table, and a lot of the people that we were going to school with were starting to make inroads. You know, Sean Puffy Combs, Mark Pitts, who are some very influential people in the music industry right now. And we started signing songwriters and producers here and going to beat the streets in New York. But more than anything, we followed our passion. I didn't know how I was going to make any money. I didn't even know how much money I was going to make. But I know I was very passionate about what I was doing, and no one could tell me no about what I was pitching and what I was selling and what I believed in. And ultimately, you know, here 20 years later, it worked out. You know, I own a publishing company. It's called Noontime Music Inc. It probably has about 650 copyrights in it, over 33 #1 records in it, 50 top 10 records in it. Mariah, Mary J. Blige, Usher, Chris Brown, everybody under the sun. So I feel proud about what we've given to Atlanta, but more importantly, what Atlanta's given us.
Wow, impressive.
1988, the day after I finished graduate school, I drove to Hollywood with my MFA degree from Carnegie Mellon and my life's belongings in my little Honda and a spec script for The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd. And I drove to LA right in the middle of the Writers Guild strike of 1988. Took a job at Universal in motion picture marketing for $240-something a week, and spent that summer writing and also staying up at night and counting these big legal size pieces of paper that people would fill out in the movie screenings, talking about how much they liked the Shark and Jaws 4. And as soon as the strike was over, my boss introduced me to a fraternity brother of his at Universal, who was the head of motion picture marketing, and he introduced me to Simon & Simon, and they liked my spec scripts and went to work. So yeah, I think it goes under the heading of continuing to do what you love and being where the work is done, opportunity.
And if my memory is correct, you have like 200 writing credits or something, so pretty
Yes.
impressive.
Give or take.
And like I said, you've got to read your bios. It's really good stuff. Okay, so let's open it up to the audience.
Hi, I'm Susan Moss with Women in Film, and I want to say that I think one of the good things about Atlanta is we are a more diverse, creative community, partially due to Tyler Perry's efforts and just, using a lot of the inclusive crew ideas. And I just wondered if you had any efforts or programs that you particularly work to make it, not Oscar so wide, but just have a more inclusive crew and on the business side.
If I can speak to that? So we're very proud at the Georgia Film Academy of our diversity. This current season, this fall, we are 52% people of color in our classes and 48% white. We are approximately 45% female. We're hoping to get those numbers up, and anecdotally, people of all ages, well, from 18 to about 60, are represented at the Georgia Film Academy. So we're not necessarily proactive about that. Diversity is important to us. So simply put, we want to look like Georgia. So we're working to do that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Scott, I'm a member of the Atlanta Prescott, and I have a 17-year-old daughter. And their business model of consuming content is upside down. So I'm kind of wondering if you all are doing anything to prepare for that, because it doesn't appear that your business model now is going to work in the next decade.
I mean, look, you're always looking at the new content. I think for Marvel, we have both TV and we have the features, and for TV we have the Netflix shows, which is a new venue of viewing content. You're always looking at it. You are. I mean, I personally, I believe that there will always be a place for the spectacle of these big movies, because it's, and again, maybe I'm completely wrong, but when you go to these theaters, the IMAXs of the world now, or you go to the other big theaters, I think that the experience itself is something that people will want. Again, will it be less? Yeah, possible. Will it be fewer tickets sold? Yeah, possible. Again, I think that other avenues in Disney as well too. There's Disney again is always these other avenues, but you have to keep up with the times, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I come from the music space, and so that disruption has already happened. It annihilated our business, and the forefathers of it were very ignorant about the capability of disruption. And so if you think about it on a sliding scale, all forms of media, their day is coming. Started with the music space, sliding over to advertising, moving over to film and entertainment.
Interesting, funny, or whatever about getting into the business, or and you can broaden it, because I think, Christopher, I'd love to hear what it's like to engineer Justin Bieber or Jennifer Lopez. But if you could just share a story that might be sort of illustrative about the entertainment business.
Well, when I graduated from college, I was clueless what I wanted to do. I was playing golf every day in Colorado and had no idea. My sister was a costume designer in Los Angeles, and she called one day and said, "Just move out here. Just move out here. I'll get you a job." So it goes back to what I said before about going to where the jobs are. That was the biggest step that I could have made, was to go to Los Angeles, where at that point where the jobs were. And it was so busy there that I got in with one Howard's company and just worked my way up from that point. But again, it's opportunity. It's where the opportunity is.
I kind of fell into it because my dad is a set decorator in Ireland, and for people work long hours in the film business, and it's tough for family. So if you want to see your parents, you kind of have to get a job on a film set during the summertime. So no, it was a very you know, I got to work on films at a very young age, unlike Braveheart, but Saving Private Ryan, which kind of changed. It's just seeing how that was all put together. It kind of blew my mind. And I did try and go off and get a proper job and work in finance, but I couldn't. I had to come back. It just it's a unique business with great people, you know, and that's the kind of draw to it.
I don't really have any illustrious music industry stories.